What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another What to Buy on eBay video. I think that this is episode number 31 of different CGC graded comic books. We got some trading cards. We've got some vintage Kenner items. We've got some graded vintage collection items. Before I dig in any further, I've got a few shout outs that I wanted to repeat that I also talked about in my last Patreon exclusive live stream. Thanks to those of you that joined. And we'll try to make that a more common occurrence. We had a lot of fun doing it. It's up on the channel now on replay, so you can go check that out under my playlist with different live streams. And I'll put a link to that video in the video description. And if I remember, I'll also put the item numbers for all of the items covered in this video. But I did have a few shout outs I wanted to give. I got a couple of new Patreons, Dylan Johnson and Simpson Z. Thank you guys for becoming Patreon members. And all of my Patreon supporters get my videos 24 hours early access. So I really appreciate you guys hopping aboard the AFG Patreon train. And a couple of other Patreon supporters recently increased their monthly contribution. Gary Wallace, Eric Benner, and Gary Brooks. Thank you guys for recently increasing your monthly contribution to Patreon. So thanks so much to everybody. Let's go ahead and dig right into some awesome items here. The first one is a CAS 85 Plus Zuckuss, and this one is the version that does not have the circles on the backs of the knees and heels. So I find this Hong Kong variant, to be a little bit tougher to find versus the one with the circles and on the backs of the knees and heels, but they're probably about the same. I don't know. It just seems like in general that this version is a little tougher to find, and you can see very clearly on the back of the legs for this figure that there are no circle indentations, EPM marks, or whatever you want to call them, on the backs of the knees and the heels. So really nice high-grade example, and 85 plus. This one's listed for $143 plus $10 shipping, or $9.39 shipping. So about a $1.60 or so. Not particularly a great deal, but certainly not overpriced. Usually 85 pluses and above, they can be, $200 plus in terms of a buy it now situation. This one is a buy it now. Maybe you watch it, maybe he makes it, or he or she makes a drop in the price at some point, but I'd say 130, 135, somewhere in that ballpark's probably about right. So it's not too far off, but probably worth a watch. Next up, I got a comic book. This is the High Republic, The Blade #1, and this is the main cover A version. A really great cover, very dark cover. And we'll go over what the key appearances are for this series in a second from Key Collector Comics. But this one is just the standard cover A. It's listed for $60. There's 3 watchers on this one already, and this seller has 3 of them available in a CGC 9.8. This is a recent release. It just came out in January, and it's a buy it now, again, for $60 plus $12 shipping. This is a little bit tougher cover to find. This is the variant edition cover for the Blade #1. Really great-looking cover, too. It shows Porter Engle, I think, blocking all of the different laser fire with his lightsaber, and just kind of an interesting artistic cover there. And again, it's the variant edition. This one's a little bit tougher to find. This one's at auction, and by the time this video goes live on the channel, the auction should be ending tonight. So just keep that in mind, that if you are interested in this one, I bet you can probably get this for a pretty good deal. Uncanny Stash is the seller. He always lists a lot of CGC 9.8 Star Wars comics at auction, and lots of good deals to be had. But I like this cover a lot. It's a really great cover. Now, what is the significance of the book? And this is from KeyCollectorComics.com. You can look up the title to any comic book, not just Star Wars, but any comic book, and it'll have pretty much every major key for any series. And so, as you can see, for the issue #1, which is right here, it's listed as December. So I think it was December, not January, what I said before. It's the origin of Porter Engle, the Blade of Bardota. That's his nickname. It's also the first appearance of his sister. But the one to keep an eye on, and I have not seen any 9.8 grades yet for issue #2, but that's one to keep an eye on because there are a number of first appearances. There's 5 first appearances in the second issue of that book. So probably worth a look, probably worth picking up, either raw copies or in a 9.8 grade. This one came out in January, but so obviously they have not kind of made it through the grading process yet. But I would guess over the next couple of weeks, maybe a month or so, we should start to see issue #2 in a 9.8 grade hit eBay in auctions, like from Uncanny Stash. So keep an eye on that one. But there's 5 first appearances on there. It looks like Envoy Celine, Field Marshal Tozin, Sevens, who's a droid, Prince Colden, and the first cameo of General Vice. I don't know who any of these characters are, but anytime you get that many first appearances, you can probably expect the secondary market to react, and people will probably pick it up. So just a book to keep an eye on. Again, I don't know whether any of these characters will amount to anything long term, but anytime you get 5 first appearances in a comic book, it's probably worth taking a look at, or at least monitoring. But issue number 1 and number 2 are both really good. But this is the beginning of Porter Engle, who is a main character. He's a main character within the High Republic universe, and a really cool character. And this is kind of the beginning of his origin story, is issue number 1. And then obviously the second issue has all those first appearances. Next up, this is not a trading card that I would pick up yet at this price, but it's a trading card that I would look for as they start to make their way through PSA's grading process. So this is a PSA Gem Mint 10 of Darth Vader from the Star Wars Living Set. This is card number 356. It just came out last year. And what I like about this card is that it shows Vader after the fight with Obi-Wan Kenobi from the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV series on Disney+. And it shows his helmet kind of broken. You can see Hayden Christensen there looking through his broken mask. It's just an awesome card. It's a really awesome card. This seller has a couple of them available for $100 plus $5 shipping. To me, that's kind of too expensive, and that's why this one's sitting. But I would keep an eye out, or maybe set up a search on eBay for this card, because eventually they'll start hitting the auction block, and we'll start to see them come up for auction. And this is one, I don't have a lot of Star Wars Living Set cards, but this is definitely one I want to get, because it's just, there's something about this card that really captures the evil of Darth Vader. And obviously it was a pretty awesome scene, probably the best scene within the entire Obi-Wan miniseries. And that's just a fantastic looking card. So again, I'm not saying to buy this for $100, but I do think that you might want to keep an eye on this particular card as they come up for auction, because it's just an awesome looking card. It's just got great colors and just a great image there of Vader with the broken helmet. Next up is a baggie. This is a Tebow baggie. Now, this is a tape-sealed baggie. It's advertised as, you know, still sealed. It's hard to tell in the photos because it's just kind of not detailed photos. But South Beach Toys is the seller. I bought from this seller before and been very happy. It's listed for $60. 16 watchers on it, free shipping. I did receive an offer yesterday for $49.50 for this baggie. It's, again, a tape-sealed Tebow baggie. Made in Hong Kong. So again, I'm assuming that it hasn't been manipulated or it's not double taped. It's always a risk with taped baggies that you're not getting one that is still factory sealed. It looks factory sealed to me. The tape looks yellowed, so I think it's probably okay. But just keep that in mind, that with all these items you want to vet them and make sure that you're comfortable with them. But again, it's advertised as factory sealed, and for $49.50 free shipping, that's a pretty good buy for a tape sealed baggie. Next up, I've got Knights of the Old Republic number 0. This is the first appearance of Squint, and Squint later becomes Darth Malak. And the price is really good on this one. If you want kind of a secondary key from the Dark Horse years, this is from 2006. And again, it's the first appearance of Squint, who later becomes Darth Malak. His first cameo appearance is in Star Wars Tales 23, which is a lot more expensive book than this one. This one's listed for $80 plus $11.45 shipping. Not a bad price. Not a bad price if you're into some of these Dark Horse comic books. And again, it's the first appearance of a character that later becomes Darth Malak. Next up, I've got an AFA 85 Taiwan Emperor's Royal Guard. And this one's listed for $175 free shipping. There's 5 watchers on this one. It does have the brand new case style. The Taiwan Emperor's Royal Guard is the most common. It's just the easiest COO to find for the ERG. There's a Hong Kong. There's a Lily Letty. There's a no COO, which we've covered in past videos. But again, if you don't have any and you want a loose graded, high grade ERG, this is not a bad price, $175. I feel like that's not a terrible price at all, free shipping. Next up, I've got another card that's at auction, and this is from the 1980 Topps Empire Strikes Back series. This is card number 59, And this is a pretty iconic image of Yoda. Obviously, we know this image very well from our Kenner collecting. It says, "Welcome, young Luke." It's a PSA 9. It's at auction. As of the making of this video, there's 4 days, 7 hours left. Right now, it's at $38.77 in terms of the bid. $6.50 shipping. And I did find a few data points for this one. Here's one that sold for $92 on December 8th. I found 2 other data points where it sold for $82 and for $89. So, somewhere between 80 and 95 bucks is about the fair market value for this card in a PSA 9. And, again, it's a 42-year-old, 43-year-old card, and it's just an iconic image of Yoda, and it's a mint 9. So really, really nice looking card there. Now in a PSA 10, you're probably over $300. I think I found a data point for over $300 for this card. So that's a lot of money. This is not his rookie card, quote unquote, but again, it's kind of one. If you're an action figure collector from the vintage Kenner years, this card is probably one you want to have if you like PSA graded cards. And if you can get it for somewhere between $80 and $95, that's about the fair market value. And let's see. Next up, we've got a mint and sealed box speeder bike. This is from, obviously, the Return of the Jedi line of toys, 1983. What's great about this one that's for sale is that the flap is not folded yet. And usually when you find these mint and sealed box, the flap has like damage to it. And again, you got to be careful here because the tape, it is double taped on one side. Again, I'm assuming that was factory. I don't know enough about the speeder bikes to know if this one has been, taped after the fact, but it looks like original tape to me, and the flap is in really great condition, probably an overall 80 or 80 plus condition, and it's listed for $200. There's 9 watchers on it. Again, I'm not familiar enough with these mint and sealed vehicles to make a judgment as to whether that tape is, after the fact or not. So just keep that in mind. But from my perspective, it looks correct, and it's in fantastic condition. And $200 is pretty good. I mean, I've seen them sell in auctions for more than that. Again, it's $200 plus $10.20 shipping. There's 9 watchers on that one as well. Next up, I've got some graded TVC. This is an uncirculated 8.5 Clone Trooper. And this one is the 501st Legion, so a fairly recent release. And again, it's an uncirculated 8.5 on the modern scale with AFA, silver label. This one is at auction. There's 3 days, 22 hours left as of the making of this video. Right now, it's still at $10.50 with $16 shipping. As we've covered in various vintage collection market updates, a lot of these recent releases, when they're 8.5 grade, you can get a really good deal on them. Sometimes they sell for at grading cost or very close to it. And 60 to 70 bucks max, and I think that's a pretty good buy for an uncirculated recent release Clone Trooper. And the same seller also has Fennec Shan in an uncirculated 8.5. Next up is Yoda number 1. This is the 1:25 ratio variant. This seller had 3 of them available. 2 of them have sold. So again, it's the 1:25, and this is one of the best covers. I love this cover. It shows Yoda kind of like getting ready to force push or something, and he's got the snake around his neck there. Again, it's a 9.8 grade, 1:25. So for every 25 of the standard cover A's, only 1 of these was printed. As I said, 2 of them have sold. 1's still available for $60 plus $17 shipping. But that's a great cover. There is also a Virgin cover that is a lot more expensive, but that's a really nice looking book. And this is the origin of Yoda. I've covered this in various videos before. The origin story of Yoda finally came out this past year, and probably a good book to have in your collection. There's a 1:25. There is 2 or 3 different standard covers. There's a 1:100 that's very expensive. The Phil Noto 1:100 cover is very, very pricey. But 60 bucks, that's not a bad price. $60 plus $17 shipping. Next up, I've got a Tri-Logo Klaatu Skiff Guard outfit. This is a buy it now over in Europe. So this is mainly for my European viewers. This has got the etched bubbles, the etched edges on the blister. That's a factory thing. It looks to be in pretty great shape overall. Right now, it's listed for 190 euros or about 206 US dollars. Would probably grade an 80 pretty easily. But you can see the etched blister style there on that Klaatu Skiff Guard. But a really nice looking example for about 200 bucks for those of you over in Europe. Next up is Star Wars Republic number 51. This is another Dark Horse Comics, and this is the first appearance of Dirge, the Bounty Hunter. Now, when the comic book market was super, super hot, this was like a $250 to $350 book. This is a buy it now situation for $125. It's not labeled on the CGC label, but this is the first appearance of Dirge the Bounty Hunter. Great cover with Anakin and Obi-Wan from the Clone Wars years called Graveyard Moon. So this one is listed for $125 plus $20 shipping, make an offer. And then there's another one that's also available. This one is another 9.8 grade that's listed for $120 plus $17 shipping. This one has 5 watchers on it as well. So anywhere from about 120 to about 140 will get you the first full appearance of Dirge the Bounty Hunter in a nice Dark Horse Clone Wars era comic. And I just think it's one of those secondary keys that while the market is slow, it's probably worth picking up. I have this one on my radar for this year, as well as the Mace Windu one-shot that is the first appearance of Asajj Ventress. Those are 2 books I would like to pick up, but I wanted to point that one out because there's 2 of them available right now, and they're both priced pretty well. Finally, I've got a UKG 85% Imperial Dignitary. This one is listed for 190 pounds, or about 230 US dollars. This is really geared for my European viewers because the shipping is through the global shipping program, and that adds another $44 on top for those of us in the US. But this is the brand new case style. It looks to be in excellent condition. I see 0 nose rub, which is the big problem with the Imperial Dignitary. But to get a last 17, the subgrades are 90 and 85 for an overall 85. Pretty awesome item for 230 US dollars, or about 190 pounds. Would it be cheaper in an auction? Probably. But again, this is another one to keep an eye on if you still want this for your last 17 run in a high grade, and maybe the seller drops the price a little bit. But even as is, at that price, I would have no trouble paying that price. It's just a nice looking example with no nose rub, and I think it's probably worth pretty close to that list price. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this look at other items that are for sale on eBay right now. I hope that some of you are able to find some good deals out there. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon.